Hello, 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 and welcome to another One Lion of Code. I am One Lion, and you are all awesome. How are you doing on this fantastic Monday? Monsday? Moonday? Hello, Thinda, hello, Dukesoft. Catch my breath. I'm always running upstairs just before the stream to refill my waters, and running back downstairs. Because I'm usually working all the way up until the timer is at around 3 minutes. I'm like, oh, should probably get ready. Okay. I'm going to get a couple things on screen, and then we will switch to the main desktop. Do CD this. Now watch this. Maybe. No idea why that took so long to get to. Okay, here is my desktop now. Meow, right meow. But yes, for those of you that are new here, welcome to the stream. We work on Blazor on the stream, doing a multi-platform, full stack application. Right meow. And yeah, that's what we do. Blazor. Lots of Blazor. So the actual application that we work on during the stream is called the Financial Management Tracker. And this thing is intended to allow the user, whoever clones the project, because right now I'm not planning on deploying it anywhere, hosting it anywhere. But if you clone it to your local machine and run Entity Frameworks migrate database, then you will be able to use it on your own, and you'll be able to use it to track your finances, your spending and savings, and all of the other things that go along with finances. Not all of the other things, I guess. Not really budgeting. Out of breath. So you essentially add accounts that you want to track, and then you do payments against those accounts. So going from one of your tracked accounts to some external source, a deposit from some external source to one of your tracked accounts, and a transfer, which is moving money between your tracked accounts. Right now, you don't see any monetary units on there, because that is something that we do want to support, is to be able to change your monetary units. It'll be hard to do any kind of money conversion. Oh man. Findle has a Captain Coder emote. I think Jern would prefer doubloons. Absolutely. Absolutely, positively. So anyway, we've gotten pretty far. We have a lot of the functionality showing up. We have the ability to edit our drop-down list values. And we were recently, over the past, 6 weeks now, maybe more, working on a calculator functionality that we can have in app. And so we now have the ability to why is there a random F? To have a calculator in a draggable window that we can move around. And on Friday's Community Day stream, I added the close button. I wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing, but I added it. And so here you go. We have a dismiss button. So now let's just style it and move on and get rid of that F, wherever that F came from. So yay. And I don't think he's done it yet, but for those of you that don't know Thindle is another fantastic .NET streamer. He works on modernizing applications and doing stuff in really cool ways. He's also the creator of the Visual Studio extension No Docs with 2 X's. The 3 X's would be a different kind of No Docs. Anyway, check it out if you're interested in what that is. The nodocs extension allows you to mask any values in key value pairs in XML and JSON. So for example, if I right-clicked and went to manage user secrets and got rid of my comments, then you would see I have a key called connection strings, a key called connection strings : DB connection, and then a value that is masked. No do XXX holic. Expert sex change. Is that what it is? If anyone remembers the old pre-Stack Overflow, Site Experts Exchange. I don't know that one. But yes, it is funny. Where are the mods at? Says the one mod. All right then. So here's our app. You can see that we also list out any transactions that we have tracked in a sortable way. You can click on any account and see all of the transactions filtered for that account. And yeah, I think that's the whirlwind tour of the application. So let's finish this thingy up. Scoot you over here, F12. And calculator, where did this F come from? UI. Okay, that's gone. What else? We said we're gonna style. Styling, the dismiss button, the position, absolute, right. Yeah, sure, one rem. Background, color, transparent, or background transparent is what I said. Border none. Adding 0, margin 0, and scoot. And scoot. Oh no, where did it scooch to? Hello? It's there. Okay, we just need to tell it to be color bar dash primary color. Convert to the wait. Do you have a plan for the next project yet? I have a couple, but yeah, because I have no idea what to do when the conversion is done, if it's ever done. Yeah, convert to the next Blazor version. We can still do that as part of this project. I wonder if I can move this up. Let's do top 0. Hello, Diedrich. The logo above the chat looks really awesome. Oh yeah, I haven't changed that in a long time. So that is an image generated, an AI generated image is what I was trying to say, using Stable Diffusion. I can't remember what model I used, so I do not take credit for the artwork whatsoever. It was just something that was generated by me typing in a few words and it spit that out at me. And I loved it, so I kept it. An image generated AI. Keep the logo, it looks awesome. Yeah. I mean, like, I do have a company logo and I did pay someone to create that for me because I am not a graphics designer. But since this is for fun and for play, then that's where that I feel comfortable using that logo. Or not even logo, it's just an image. It wasn't intended to be a logo whatsoever. Just a lion, a purple lion. My favorite colors in that, or I guess not all of my favorite, my favorite color is not in there. But anyway, thank you. Thank you. Both my company logo and the Thindo logo were paid for. Yeah. And I'm not averse to, and Irish John is going to be mad at me, or not mad at me. He is going to be, he will have less respect for me for saying this, but I have no problem with playing with AI generated images. I'm not using it for products. I'm not using it for anything that would mean that I am ripping other people off. The Lion's Den. I don't know if it's everywhere, but in Kansas, the Lion's Den is a sex shop. They sell sex paraphernalia. Is that the word? Paraphernalia. So I don't know. That would be really good to call it the Lion's Den. Oh. There we go. That looks nice. And then if we give it a background of var. Hi, Sir Black Soul. BG color. I don't know what I called this Sass variable. Not even Sass variable, CSS variable. Primary background color. Okay, I think that applied. So now let's actually give it a little bit of a padding. But when I give it the padding, then that's what's going to actually move it down. So maybe I do want the top to stay at 0. Yeah, there we go. It's like I want to be able to drag it anywhere that you can get to the double line, but I don't want to be able to drag it when you're on the close button. Cool. But that worked. That styled the close button, and we have a draggable calculator that we can move around. So let's commit. When you give it the paddling? Yes, when I give it the paddling. So if you use Lion's Den, would it be a dirty code? Well, I mean, it already is. Just because I'm not necessarily using that. I'm trying to use good principles. Oh, sorry. I was not able to join last Friday. Been on wedding. Not an issue. We talked about a bunch of other stuff. I didn't test that because I forgot what it was that we were going to test, and I knew that I was going to. So I was kind of relying on, and I even forgot that it was you that was suggesting we try it. I was even relying on you to be there to remind me who was the one that suggested it and what it was that we were going to try. So redirecting to in the Maui hybrid window. I want to figure that one out. We'll go ahead and try it. I think it's a good thing to try. That would be in here, right? Yeah. Okay, so I kept everything like I said I was going to. I don't think I can show it again after I show it once, though. So I just have to refresh. Okay. So let's try this. Let me commit real quick. We did a lot. Why didn't I do a mini commit? So I styled the draggable area. and added dismiss to calculator. Save. So I missed a ton of stuff. How am I going to catch up? Well, you definitely don't have to watch all of it, but I do post all of my VODs on YouTube from the beginning of this project, as well as a few other playing around and trying to figure things out with WPF and Blazor videos. Or actually, yeah, WPF and Blazor specifically. Trying to get the title bar to respond to theme changes and oof. It was rough. But the first video will just be the one that describes the project in a little bit more detail. We also have the project in open source on the GitHubs, if you did not see that link when we first posted it. But the majority of these 170-ish, I'm just going to say 170 because not all of them are numbered, and not all of the numbered ones got posted. All of these streams are a lot of me talking with chat and doing not as much writing code. And then of course exploring things like this, because like one of the things that I love doing is exploring. And so one thing that we're exploring is there a way for a malicious actor to inject code into our Blazor UI, which happens to be written with Razor markup, in our WPF application? The question is, where was that spot that I was injecting? Search for the donkey. What even is the name of the donkey image? I can't. I think we used the data. There we go. UI state. Okay, so we're still going to use the on click on this thing, but just imagine that this thing launches as soon as it's loaded. So when we show this, click on this. All right, unexpected input at end. And is it just because it malformed? Yeah. Wait, that's interesting. Span on click equals window.location.href equals www. Oh, duh. Right. Yes, thank you for finishing my sentence for me. I just dropped it. I was like, you know, we're using base. We're using base. 22. Okay, there we go. So we're telling window to go to some other location, and it does relative to our base URL. So we're also going to try this with a absolute URL, whatever. But let's do it in WPF real quick. Debug. Stop. Is the water. So as you can tell, this is the exact same application, or I should say, this is the exact same UI running in a different application type. So this is the same Blazor components that we're using in our WASM, except running in WPF. I didn't need to go to this page, but I was just showing you that, again, connecting to the same database, or I guess it's API, and then the API, the hosted API is what connects to the database. But this is doing API calls as a desktop app. Show message. Yep, and there it is. So it did try to route using JavaScript. And then if we did HTTPS. Oh, that's what's happening. It's not actually changing my, so this dismiss is not actually changing my show to false. Let's fix that real quick. Top bar. Main layout. Here it is. Okay. App bind show. That's weird though, because it is supposed to be doing app bind show. Interesting. Anyway, the only thing that we can do to reset it at the moment is to close and reopen. Coleslaw. Now I'm trying to learn GitHub and Visual Studio Code so I can work at the Lion's Pride. It is not the Lion's Pride. It is Automated Realms. Debug. It's such a weird phrase. We're going to end our meeting early, so we're giving you some time back. Show message is what I'm trying to do, and then this should actually redirect to google.de. So it does. So it does. So a malicious actor could somehow, like, again, for all of the things that we're testing out with this, get good. I have the eye of the tiger, the heart of a lion, and a lifetime ban from the zoo. That is a fantastic joke. I heard it on BitGamey's stream, I think, for the first time. Okay. Yeah, so all of the issues that we're looking at would involve a user, a malicious actor, somehow being able to modify the installed file that is installed on an individual user's machine, such that when it shows a dialog, for example, then the image that gets displayed is, well, I guess not in that case. And here the situation is we have this UI state class. We have a method, a public method in that UI state class that takes a string for each of the parts of it, the message, the title, and the OK button. And so what we're saying could happen is malicious user notes that we're trying to call this show message dialog, and then somehow changes the parameters or the arguments that are being passed in to these HTML-y, actually they are just HTML, not even HTML-ish, values, because these things are the ones that are getting rendered from string directly to HTML. And again, we're talking desktop here specifically, not website. Because that was the concern that we're looking at for all of our cybersecurity things that we got flagged on. Is I have some strings that are being provided to a method, and then that method is in turn taking those strings and rendering them as HTML directly to HTML underscore. And so because it is possible to do with your web version, Sir Black Soul found some documentation for us that says you should still treat your WPF web Blazor Web View Control content with the same cross-site scripting and security concerns that you would any web application. And I don't know that I still have the link up, but I am pretty sure that I bookmarked it. Oh, my eyeball. Like, I wish you could choose to sort by last updated and then change it back to your default sort. That'd be nice. I don't know where I would have put it. I put it right here, right in my chat, just so I can reference it later. Thank you, Sir Flexel. Talking about that, why do so few courses cover that topic about security? That's a good question. Like, that is one thing I will say was even lacking from formal curriculum, unless you were specifically focusing on security as your computer science curriculum focus, whatever. But you're right, it doesn't really get covered as much. You're just supposed to know these things. Like, I remember taking one course that talked about SQL injection, and it wasn't even cross-site scripting because I don't think we were as aware of that back in 2000 through 2009. Yeah, it's still just weird to me to think that if you have a method that takes in parameters and that is the only way that you are supplying these parameters that you're going to output as HTML, it just doesn't make sense that that is an attack vector. Yeah, exactly. It's just a simple rule of thumb, never trust any user input. Blazor is quite new, especially from the hybrid view, but it's quite covered on OWASP and anything security related. Yeah, I mean, like, it feels like if you are doing web development and you're learning web development from scratch, they're just trying to just ignore all of these security concerns because that not overcomplicates, it just complicates the learning process. It's like, let's show you how to make a website using Blazor. Let's show you how to make UI using Blazor. And you'll learn C#, you'll learn HTML, CSS, and if you want JavaScript. But at the same time, it's like, don't even worry about the security concerns. .NET will handle the majority of it as far as setting up HTTPS and all of the fun things for you. Cores, cross-origin resource sharing. But when it comes to cross-site scripting, that's another concern that comes into the picture when you are creating a widely distributed application or something that is hosted on some server that you are maintaining. And it's like, you're not really anticipating a lot of malicious actors to hack your site in some way. But yeah, I'm really trying to understand, like, I'm struggling is what I'm trying to say. I'm struggling to understand, because it's not my focus. I'm struggling to understand how a malicious actor would modify your hosted site in such a way that if another user goes to it from another machine, then they're able to do all of this injection stuff. Like, I could see where a user on their machine could put some input into a text box, send that as form input or something to your server or to your website itself and cause it to do stuff. But I don't see them modifying your actual hosted code unless they get access to your server. And that would be, like, it makes more sense for a WPF application because that is installed on a person's machine. And if someone else writes a program that modifies the installed application, then yes, that makes sense. But for a website, I don't know. That's hosted somewhere or in a container or whatever. Okay, Sir Black Soul does have some stuff to say on this, and it's awesome. Thank you so much for all of your contributed information on this topic. So I'm going to go up a little bit because I did kind of skip over this one because, again, I was referring to a WPF app, but I think we should go back to this comment from Sir Black Soul, which is, I can create an exact clone of your website, potentially inject a redirect to my page, collect all inputs, unencrypted. Yeah, so that potentially inject a redirect to my page. Are you somehow hacking the DNS servers to redirect to your page? Are you hacking my server in some way that is, let's say, hosted on AWS? That part of it confuses me. Which is not to say that a user can't do that. A malicious actor can't do that. I can't fathom it. I can't imagine it. Or to use a reflected cross-site scripting, inputting a text that will be returned and executed as JavaScript via the API database, etc. Yeah, and again, like, this whole entire thing here is my application is providing the string that I want to display to this method as HTML. And of course, I do have workarounds. So I did implement the workaround, or not even workaround. I did implement a different approach, which is to make these render fragments. And so it's not like it's going to turn any old string into HTML. All right, Blazor is quite new. We read that one. Simple rule of thumb. Security is generally very isolated, one issue, one fix. So you'd need to learn a lot of different attack vectors. True. Starting with HTTPS security headers will make you familiar with a lot of them. I believe a large portion is the risk of perceived security after handling a few topics on training to raise the expectation. Now I'm secure. Cool. Diedrich said to Sir Black Soul, even in general, most courses, whether it's Angular or React or any other language or framework, security isn't really covered. Yeah. It's just like, keep good security practices in mind. That's what you get, which means that you have to go and do your own learning for that. Kind of like accessibility as well. When you're learning to create React components or Blazor components, there's nothing that really says also, when you are creating them, as a rule of thumb, use these ARIA tags or stuff like that. All right. Then Coleslaw said, do you mean just inspecting the element and messing with the code on the website? I mean, you could. So that is one thing that you could do. But another one is like when we're running this app as WPF, then it's using like ILSpy to decompile the app, find out what the code is, and then find some way to inject your own code into the app. .NET ViewSkater again. I think I keep mentioning that one. Is the it's just called .ViewSkater. Is the one that you can use to decompile an app as well as change assemblies. So you can modify a method call, you can modify the parameters being sent to a method call, and that will affect the installed application. The other thing that we have going for us with my work product is that it is a Windows Store application, and all of our DLLs are signed and hashed. So we get we compare the hash to what we're trying to load into the application before we even start running the code from it. And then of course, if it's not signed, then we don't run it. So it's like, even then, how are we going to have a malicious actor modify our assemblies at runtime on someone else's computer? Unless that someone else downloaded an entirely different version of our application that was rewritten by that person. And at that point in time, it's kind of out of our hands. Anyway, but I believe a large portion is the risk of perceived security after handling a few topics on training. Yep, we read that one. False security setup. Scammers have started to flood AWS services. If you want, you can go into more information about what you mean by flooding AWS services. And then if you have an app hosted on AWS or just anywhere, but hosted on AWS, scammers are just kind of hitting it over and over to kind of increase costs. Because that's one thing that I'm afraid of with cloud solutions is you have something out there and it's not really a thing, and then like bots and DDoS attacks are launched against it so that they can just drive up your costs. All right, also the risk, then Sir Blacksoul said to me, no, if I can just get somehow the JavaScript to route to a public website, it'll load anything I want, as long as you're connected to the internet. Does anyone even use .ViewSkater nowadays? Probably. I don't know. Like the only two that I know about are .ViewSkater and ILSpy, but I don't think you can actually modify assemblies with ILSpy. So we're talking about apps that you can actually use to decompile and then at runtime maybe change arguments that are being passed around to different methods or whole assemblies. And then Sir Blacksoul then said, also the risk of lawsuit, a la you said I need to do this and still someone hacked me. Generally companies avoid making any security recommendations and outsource that risk to specialized companies. Yeah, which I think we're doing with our work product. You would not need to. The Maui app uses Interop to read from Kestrel backend. Yeah, and that's, again, I really, really don't understand. I thought that I had a grasp on the Blazor component model and the way that it renders inside of a WPF or Maui application, where when you're doing UI, you aren't even dealing with servers, you're not dealing with circuits, you are just loading the Blazor code, and then at runtime you are, and of course you compile that, and then at runtime you are using your compiled code to generate the user interface, with nothing to do with a hidden server in there or anything. It's just, And that's what I thought, but I'm starting to doubt myself. And many library users. Oh, I didn't finish reading this. Okay, I just need to redirect the interop, which potentially would not even need extensive permissions if I find a little time to make a POC. Oh, if I find a little time, I'll try to make a POC. Yeah, definitely, that would be really cool to see. But the whole point would be at runtime, somehow modifying our code. Yeah, I don't know. It would have to be some kind of application that you can install onto another user's machine that overwrites the behavior of our code. Because at this point, we're not taking user input from the application itself and then rendering that out onto the screen. This is fully within the app. We're generating the content to be passed to this method and then eventually rendered as HTML markup. But never will these take user input to display as HTML. That was a really weird way to say that, but I said it, okay? And then ASPOSE or ASPOs, and Telerik and DevExpress, and like they all use .ViewSkater. That would imply any form of local executables would be 100% safe. But of course, I understand that it's more difficult injection path. Yeah, and again, with the security in depth, that's where that comes in, because we have signed DLLs, we have hashes that the app needs to verify, and those are defense in depth, I guess is what I meant to say. Those are two major ways of making sure that our app DLLs are not getting overwritten. Or modified. And then it's a Windows App Store, which means that it's inside of that protected folder that you can't even navigate to normally. So if I went to C:\/ program files / Windows apps. Yeah. Okay. So let's start here. C:\/ program files. So in here, there is a hidden folder called Windows Apps, which I thought that my hidden folders were all showing. Oops, options. Hidden files, yeah. But anyway, there's a hidden folder called Windows Apps. Oh, it's right here. That you first of all need admin permissions to get to, and then on top of that, you just can't normally navigate to it via Explorer, so you have to go into admin PowerShell and navigate to it that way with a few other things. You were an example of something that we don't need anymore. Okay, so how about JavaScript libraries like Cores, bcrypt, and Uglify? Would they be good? As far as using, like, I'm not the biggest fan of using obfuscation as a defense strategy, but it is one that you could use. Yeah. I mean, it would make it harder for people to read your code outright and figure out what's doing what. But I'm sure that there are things that make it, especially, oh my gosh, especially with AI now, where you could feed it gibberish variables and gibberish method names, and it would still explain to you what the code does. So I could actually see someone, yeah, this would be really interesting to see. I could see someone decompiling your code. Let's say it's obfuscated. They decompile it. They get private void A and then does some stuff, and then feed it to some kind of AI and say, explain this code to me. And then after explaining it, use your explanation to rename the method names and variables, and then give me that code back. Okay, so this is the source code for the Blazor web view, which I don't know that I would be able to just look at this and see, all right, this is why having HTML rendered as, or having a string rendered as HTML when it's provided by my internal methods and not taking any user input would be an attack vector. Yeah, I have no idea what that means. So Sir Blaxel explained you'd be able to publish/read from the app domain and interlock with the interthread communication. So essentially you are intercepting a thread and you are modifying the values being passed around in that thread. But you can definitely see it's a pure browser window, so all security mechanisms would apply the same as on any website. Yeah, as far as the rendering of the content, yes. But I think a lot of the concerns have to do with you're running a web server. It's like, I'm not running a web server. I'm running a web browser that is turning my rendered HTML into something that users can interact with. The dispatcher is like a queue for threads communicating with each other, like the UI and worker threads. Ooh, here is something that I do want to know, kind of on the same vein, but let's say that I have a lot of setup that needs to happen. One of the setups is my services provider needs to get built, which you can see in my WPF application. I'm using app.xaml.cs and I am building my services. So let's say that I wanted to make sure that these services are available before I display my main window, which is what will happen if you put this all in your constructor for app, and then it automatically fires the startup URI, or if you have something that does something different. Anyway, so you get to the end of your constructor, part of the lifecycle, it ends up firing your startup URI, opens the main window, and then all of your main window stuff happens, which for me is, here's a Blazor web view, feed it the built services. I'm essentially wanting to, let's say that my building the services takes 30 seconds, some massive number in programming. So it takes 30 seconds for whatever reason to do all of my app constructor stuff. I guess building services isn't a good example because you're not actually instantiating the things until you request them. But you know what I mean. I have some long running processes. I want to kick off two things. My splash screen logic, because my splash screen is an animated splash screen, which is I'm just in a periodic timer loop that says on every tick, update the splash screen to this new image, therefore it looks like an animated GIF. I said GIF. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I'm also doing all of my background processes to verify this is the type of system, these are the types of things in my app that should be loaded for this system, these are the extra assemblies I need to load right now before the app is even ready. So I want those two to be on separate threads and not the main UI thread for either of them. So I know about background service, but I just can't figure out how to get it to work. I'm still having this issue where my splash screen will tick normal for a second and then some of my background processes will be like nom 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 nom, and then my little ticker will just go slow. And using a periodic timer, I thought that it was going to be more like using a fixed update kind of thing. But that's not happening. But anyway, this is Blazor Web View Builder. No clue how or where to use it. Yeah, but again, we're talking about now modifying chunks of code. So I guess the whole thing to keep in mind for this whole security conversation is the very, very basics of it is I have one part of my app. It could be from WPF. It could be from other Blazor UI, as long as it can request this user interface state from my DI container and accesses this method to pass string arguments that could potentially be HTML that are generated within the application without taking any user input other than maybe a click, for example. But there is nothing in the application that tells it, like, let me just show what's calling this, for example. So this is what's calling it, show message dialog, and I am passing in these hard-coded strings to this method. Nothing to do with, here's an input box. Bind, sure. Well, that would be in the, you know what I mean, that would be out here somewhere. Oh no, am I disconnected? Did I just explode? My OBS said that I was disconnected from chat for a second there. Weird. Okay, equals, oh, not equals. So I am not doing anything that's like this. I'm sure. I am so sure. Dukesoft. Ah. I just drank water. But I will, because you have commanded it. Oh, gotta pee. Oh, wait, not anymore. Anyway. So I'm not doing anything like this, where I'm presenting the user the ability to input some text, and then I will take whatever they input and display it in a message box. Oh, I guess that would be more like here. Or even a part of that in the message box. Yes, yes, coffee. I was wearing my definition of the noun programmer shirt on Friday. And if you don't know that definition, it is a machine that turns coffee into code. And Dukesoft did put a coffee command in. Drink coffee. Counter question, why not securing the app anyhow, just in case? Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's where I was saying. So here's the complication that happens, I guess. This is the approach that I would take in order to fix this issue. Make these render fragments as my method. And this, again, this is the approach that I took because I thought it was a good approach. Where's my implementation? Does anyone know where? Here it is. fragment. And then these are render fragments. Java us, a slang word for coffee. So after drinking, does it mean? Oh, Java is a slang word for coffee. So after drinking, does it mean Java was installed successfully in my body? Dukesoft says, I hope not. And is it a slang term? Oh, you guys can't be null. Like, how do you even provide a default value for OK caption? You don't. That's the answer. Title. Nope, not title. OK button caption question mark equals builder dot open element. Yes, open elephant. Like, oh, right, never mind. I remember how I did this before. Text, and then builder dot add content, curve lm++. Okay. And essentially this would be a static. I'm pretty sure it would be static and not const because of the way that we're building it. But this would be my static OK default OK button text that I would just call. So anyway, this would be how I default all of these values this way. Ampersand, my message box would no longer take these as strings. These would now be render fragments. And again, another situation where I would need to default the OK button to be just OK so that the user doesn't have to specify it if they don't want. But in this case, because, I don't know, I would do it like this maybe. Question mark. OK button content. And then if OK button content is null, then text. Okay. Okay. Else. Not markup string because we are done with markup strings. And no longer null or white space is not null. Okay, so this would be essentially my approach for constructing a message dialog that we can just provide any random message to from the application itself that is generated by the application, whatever you want to call it. And again, probably I would have some helper methods that would say, take whatever string that I give you and wrap it inside of turn it into a render fragment by wrapping it inside of a text element. Because now the thing that's calling this, I would need to have my title and my message and my OK constructed from a render fragment. Builder not div, text. Oh, read only. And again, this could be static. Oh, yeah. And again, this would be where my helper method is. Make it nullable. String title, arrows, arrowed. And this is going to be title. So we don't have the same issue here where we are rendering the title as HTML. Instead, this is just a string content, not a markup string content, just a string content. So it will be printed out as text. So this will be make title con. Oh, right. If title, excuse me, sumimasen, arigato. Oh no, is it me though? Because like I said, I'm not showing any drop frames, but my chat said that it disconnected for a while from OBS. And that was kind of weird because I didn't feel like I got disconnected. Anyway, if title, if string is null or white space title. Okay, what are you angry at? Modifier read only is not valid for this. It is a method now. Wait. Only 2 seconds to broadcast are here. Nice. Things happen. What a nice way to put it. Oh, and I guess make render fragment. Make text content. I don't know what to call this thing. Make text content. I like that better. Title. Make text content. Message. Make text content. Okay. And then if for some reason this one was still getting flagged as yeah, if this was still getting flagged as you have injection issues from this add content, then that's where we could just sanitize the title or the text that's being passed in. I wanted to create something using C#, C++, Java. Any ideas? Like you want to use all 3 of those? Or one of those? Must be the Waze cable on the ocean on South Africa's side. All 3. A project that makes use of all 3 of them. You could use C# for your front end using Blazor. You could use Java for your back end. And C++, you could introduce some external libraries that are machine level that you have to use C++ for. So I think at that point you might be Or you could use C++ to create a WASM application. You know, compile your C++ to WASM, run that inside of a Blazor web application, but use Java again still as your backend for whatever reason. Like different microservices. Maybe I'm pretty new to development. Well, if you're new to development, then it's a bad idea to use all three of those, because it doesn't seem like it would be realistic. I mean, yeah. Okay. I made some changes. Right, we're gonna get rid of this in the top bar. We don't want this anymore. Or first, I want to make sure that this thing still builds. It doesn't. Can convert. Right, in my IUI state, I forgot to get rid of my defaults. Which kind of sucks because I really want these two to be optional. I still can make title optional. So let's do that at minimum. Yeah, I don't know. Dang it. I could have just made both of them null. Oh, do the thing. Fair. That way I don't have to rearrange the order of my parameters in my calling method. And this is actually not the right order. What order do I have this in? Message title, okay. Okay. President Not Sure was saying, if you're very new, you should probably narrow your focus. Learn the basics of one language first, as in basic syntax. Diedrich was saying, would Spring security be an option? So I don't have very much experience with Java or Spring. I like the first two languages that I learned, technically 3 languages that I learned were C, C++, and Java. And I did just about all of my stuff in Java. You are nullable. But then I started doing a lot of .NET related stuff and got hooked on it, and I love doing it. So I put all of my attention and focus onto building up my skill set in .NET. And then Gilgamesh was responding to President Not Sure, saying, I agree. I've worked on all 3 of those before. I'm not that new as designing services, etc., etc. President Not Sure says Microsoft has some really good publications on learning stuff like that. I don't know about other platforms. Yeah, that's why C# was pretty easy to learn, says Gilgamesh, unlike Java. And then President Nasher said, all I know is that the Java lang is literally the same as it was when I looked at it 20 plus years ago. The Java lang site. Interesting. Okay, did you build? Because if so, I am now going to get rid of, it did build. I'm going to get rid of the show message dialog in top bar because I don't need it. Like, do I even have, oh, I have show calc. And so now my code behind file is just going to be show calc and the UI state injection. Nice. And then we're going to get rid of this because we don't need you anymore. I don't need you anymore. Oh no. Diedrich says, well, I enrolled into a full stack course and C# was easiest to learn so far. Java is pretty nasty sometimes. I've also heard that JavaScript, if you're starting off, JavaScript is comparably easy to learn. It's comparable to learning C#. That's what I'm trying to say. So hard to word. It's just I strongly prefer a strongly typed language. Removed or refactored message dialog and removed sample usage. All right, so that is now going to be in our GitHub for the project. And that should be it as far as getting the draggable calculator to work. So the next thing that I want to do with the calculator is to make it to where you can do keyboard input, but only when the calculator has the focus. The calculator frame, the calculator, duckulator. Oracle charges you to use Java now, but there's open source options if I recall. RC. There are free Java implementations. Yeah, by now, like, do you know how long ago that changed? Because I'm using Eclipse still for my L2J server. And I have been making I have made modifications to it in the past. Like, maybe it was even over a year ago now. I don't remember how long we've had that. I am working in backend, but want to know all aspects of SDLC in full stack. I don't know what SDLC is. Microsoft publishes a JDK, which I use for Android stuff. And Diedrich said to Sir Blacksoul for real? Did not know that because I was browsing around for something to use. And there's the OpenJDK link. Software dev cycle. Ah, software dev life cycle. But I mean, learning the software dev life cycle doesn't necessarily mean you have to use multiple languages. Like, I think the desire to use those languages is just something that seems like it would be cool. But I don't honestly, I think it would be a hindrance to learning any of them or even the life cycle, development life cycle. If you are looking to find out what is pretty typical, then that would be something more like Angular front end or React with Java backend. But typically, if you're doing something like .NET, then you're either going to use Java Spring backend or .NET, ASP.NET for your backend. I don't really see it where it's often the case where your front end is written in .NET and your back end is written in some other language. But I could be wrong. But of all of the projects that I have been aware of for the company that I work for Sagetti, which, by the way, any views and opinions that I expressed on this channel are my own and not the views and opinions of Sagetti. I use DSLG all the time. Dukasoft likes groups? I don't know. Tell us what DSLG, Dukasoft Logic. Just Dukasoft Logic. But yeah, so of those projects, the majority of them want to do Angular with Java Spring. Like just about all of them want to use that. SDLC is a business approach to developing software in general, learning stuff like Scrum, Agile. And then if by front end you mean web, then yeah, front end I mean presentation layer. So it doesn't have to be web, but just whatever the user is interacting with. And then Dietrich says, it boils down to newbies walking out of a course and look at the job market and they sell all of these crazy requirements. Oh yes. Sell all of these crazy requirements from job postings. For example, we want a junior dev with 4 years of experience, which is one kind of saying we want a person that has a bachelor's degree, but at the same time, they're keeping the door open for developers. All right, Dukasoft, thank you for being here. Thank you for lurking. They're leaving the door open for developers who are new to the industry but have been practicing in some capacity over the past 4 years and can prove it. And that's 4 years of experience. But that's still a lot of personal time that you would have had to put in order to just get a junior developer position. But I agree with you. It's insane. The asks. Like, in a perfect world, I would say I want a junior developer, which is someone that has knowledge of software development in this area, like knowledge of. You've seen it, you know, core concepts, you've done some stuff on your own, but you don't have to have industry experience. You don't have to have held a job or done anything official. But you should be exhibit the ability to learn, exhibit the ability to grow, and to do problem solving and research. Yeah, so job listings are always ideal candidates. You don't have to have all of those requirements. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's another thing. Don't let a job listing prevent you from applying for a position if it is something that you're interested in trying to do. I mean, don't try going for a senior application developer, a senior software developer, a senior software engineer, or whatever it happens to be called when you have very little experience doing the application development, software development, software engineering, whatever you want to call it. What are you doing, Crisp? There's so many weird things that happen. That being said, applying to positions directly is a waste of time these days. Is it? Networking is by far the way to go. I mean, I guess, yeah. I guess so. I don't know, man, like mine was a tough situation. I happened to have a LinkedIn account that I wasn't really using, and I've been keeping it up to date with my current jobs. And then the way that I got my first job was through networking. Someone that I worked with when I did a temporary assignment for my federal service position referred me to the owner of this other consulting agency. And it was an agency, not a firm or anything. And that's how I ended up getting that developer job. And then from there, I was getting a whole bunch of recruiters asking me, hey, we have this position. Do you want to try it? Because, you know, recruiters are just, rah. It says you're doing development. You must be a fit for this job that says we need a developer. Even though the job is like JavaScript, and I have everywhere in my profile .NET. Nice. Sir Flexel says, I have a C in my name. I must be a good CEO. President Asher said, if recruiters, so yeah, networking is by far the best way to go. Recruiters after that, good ones that actually understand what they're trying to fill. That is hard to find. Man, if you're mid senior level or above, applying to postings might be useful. I haven't done that in many years now though. But again, still don't let it prevent you from actually doing that. If you have a good CV / resume or whatever you call it in your country, then it's not too difficult to apply for a position and submit your resume. Typically, you do kind of want to tailor your resume to the position you're looking for, but in most cases, if you're a junior dev, then there aren't too many specifics that you would have in your resume. When you are a more seasoned developer, you're like, I really want to work in .NET. So these are the .NET things that I want to work with. And then you become even more seasoned and specialized, and you're like, I want to work with ASP.NET, Blazor, if we do backend stuff, Azure or AWS, and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to work in anything that has a Java Spring backend, please. Unless the only thing that I'm working in is the front end, but I would prefer to be working full stack. Oh, hell no. The used car salesman approach where the recruiter is just trying to move the position, the car that's on the lot. Those are useless. Absolutely agree with you. Diedrich said, company, we want a junior developer with these skills. HR department here's 1 million years of experience, the great grandfather of quantum computing, founding member of Microsoft and or Facebook. Yes. Sir Blaxel said, today I've had the first time that an alleged recruiter contacted me via WhatsApp. I don't even have WhatsApp. Hello, Munyak. I heard you did something in Unity plus AR not so long ago. Yeah, absolutely. I can start pulling that up. We are at a lull where I'm just kind of LOL. No, LULL where I'm just kind of talking with everyone. But I will pull up the project that we played with. Unity. Exactly. LUL. No WhatsApp. What do you use then? I don't use messengers. Period. I mean, I guess Discord is the closest I get. But yeah. Tin cans in a tight string. Oh, that's the joy. Like, well, in the US, we really don't use WhatsApp anyway. It's like Twitter, Facebook, and I mean, formerly known as. Telegram. We use Carrier Pigeon, Gmail, Discord. There was this other one that AWS uses that I had never heard of that I installed because I needed to talk with support. So I installed that. Teams that ships with Windows, personal, Teams personal. Oh, you want to see what I came up? I haven't made anything on my own in Unity AR. I followed a tutorial for one of them. For all of them. I followed tutorials for all of them, but the one that I guess I converted from a non-AR app was a tutorial from, I can't think of his name right now, but it was an Arkanoid clone in 3D that I turned into AR, which is you pretty much follow his tutorial and then you add the MRTK to it and use the camera settings for that. One day I will get back to actively working on AR stuff. when I have a cleaner desk. Well, my desk is like super clean right now. It just has my work laptops on them. And since I'm not really allowed to divulge who my client is, then I can't stream through my HoloLens so that you guys can see the actual product or the actual thing. Is this thing even opening or trying to open? Yes, it is. So the most recent thing that I did though was we were exploring the web view in the MRTK3 and following that tutorial, and that's all that this is. Holographic remoting is turned off. AWS is just weird on the support stuff. You reach all sorts of companies. I'll tell you about the AWS thingy that happened to me. So as you can tell though, the web view definitely exists now in the MRTK3, so you can have a web view control, which means that you could load your Blazor application in the web view control. The thing that I don't know enough about yet is, can we receive clicked events from this web view so that we can activate our game objects in the scene? So for example, if I had a web view, if I had a page essentially that has a button that says show whatever this thing is, show tank, then I tap on that, then the tank shows up, and then I could move it around in 3D space and use it. And as I'm moving it, maybe the position is recorded in the web view control because they're all sharing the same resources. But yeah, that's going to be fun to figure out. But that's this lame one. The other things that I've done are the Land Rover tutorial, the Infenzia tutorial, the Arkanoid clone. I just don't know where they are. I haven't seen them for a while. Do I still have it on disk? That would be cool. Unities, repos, Git. Oh, I tried using the VRTK with the HoloLens, and that breaks my brain. That one doesn't work really well. More MRTK. What's in this for stream? I have no idea what that one is. But yeah, I'm not seeing the one that I did the Arkanoid clone with. Is it on my GitHub by chance? All of these private repos. Nope. Can't even trust a toilet. Wait, what? I don't trust AWS. Okay. The AWS thing that happened to me is I needed to contact support for getting help and information about how we're currently structured for some of the other projects. And what happened with the other project for those people over there was they had an on-premises solution where they had a big virtual, what is it called? vSphere host with a whole bunch of virtual machines on it. And it was broken up. Like it was a real server rack. It had a real disk, whatever those things are called. And then on there we had multiple virtual machines that were essentially servers that did various things. We had file server, we had web server, test web server. I think they even had a development web server, database server, ArcGIS server, and those were all different machines. I repeated myself with quotes the second time. So anyway, they were told while I was working for them, we were told that we needed to go shut down our data center and move our data either to the host site where they were going to charge us a lot of money to be hosted with them and host all of our apps, or come up with our own solution like a cloud solution. And we decided to go with the cloud. We compared prices between Azure and AWS and complexity and stuff like that. I was comfortable and familiar with using AWS because I had used it before, so we went with AWS. And when we moved to AWS, we did what's called a lift and shift, which is you take your existing structure essentially and you mirror it in the cloud, and then you move your files to it. So that's what we did. We went with EC2 instances with elastic storage, whatever those things are called, so that we can mount those disks to each of our EC2 instances. And we told them to be Windows so that we can mirror what we had on premises, which is IIS with 7 to 10 hosted applications on IIS, Azure Active Directory on Windows for access for the apps to each other, to file system, to database, and we're using Active Directory for that. And then the ArcGIS server, file shares, all of that stuff. Nice. I love that. So anyway, they've been running with that since we initially set it up, and now they are looking back at cost. And then they contacted me not too long ago and said, hey, can you maybe look at this and work with AWS to see if we could save costs somehow by maybe restructuring, by using some other approaches? And so I was like, yeah, sure. So I contacted AWS and I got the information from them, but then throughout the call, they're like, what's the account ID? And so I gave them the account ID and they're like, this routes to this other organization. And so it kind of looks like you have two organization managers, one for this, the one that you're calling us about, and then one for the parent organization. And everything between all of that is so convoluted and twisty. And they're like, I don't think we're allowed to offer you support. I think you're supposed to be going through the other people because of the way that billing works. And then this was after they gave me all of the information that I needed too. So I'm like, okay, that's fine by me. I contact AWS, I get support. I don't care who gives it to me. But yeah, they were just talking about it like, we need to do this the right way. And I like making sure that I'm doing things the right way. One of those being making sure that I'm contacting the appropriate group of people that I'm supposed to be talking with. Okay, so anyway, that story was a lot shorter, I hope, than most of my other stories. So I'm going to catch up on chat. You get free consultancy support on the platform and then gradually increased runtime costs by 300%. Correct. True. I think I missed some before that. AWS is so much more reliable and respects privacy more than Facebook. With 3, not just 1, 3 kappa faces. Kappa. Laptops. What do you want me to call them? Notebooks? Workstations? On premises is the way. I don't trust anyone except my toilet, the only entity that reliably helps me to get rid of and near bear with it. And near bear with it? I don't know what near bear with it. And you don't have to apologize for whatever language you happen to use. Talk the way that you normally talk, as long as it's respectful. That's the only thing that I ask. And not bear with it. Got it. Gets rid of shapoopy and not bear with it. Yeah. I guess that's kind of, I say that often. I'm like, don't worry about the language that you use because it's the language that you use, but just be considerate of other people. And that's what you're doing by censoring out your curse words, because some people find curse words to be offensive. But I'm just letting you know that I don't. But there may be other viewers that do. So if you're apologizing to them, I hope they're able to forgive you. Okay, Kubernetes, tame the beast and the beast provides. And then President Not Sure said, learn Kubernetes in only 90 short lessons. Enroll today. It'll only take 7 years of your career. One lesson, infrastructure, one storage optimization, one Azure, one AWS, one GWS, one. Each only takes 12 years to master. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Seems like Raspberry Pi is the way to go. Yes, I will host all of my sites on a Raspberry Pi. With the current shipment times, that makes 2 years disaster recovery. Yes. And then you find out that all the physical backups that you have were all empty. Switch NVIDIA chip factories. Yikes. Okay, I will let the conversation play itself out. You guys can read it up there if you want. I don't feel like reading it. So our next step is, with this calculator, to implement 10 key functionality. Being able to push gas. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say on show, when show changes to visible, we are going to set the focus to what? What are we going to set the focus to? Parts of the calculator do we have? Oh, why are you here? Why did we leave you here? Templated modal. Because we were replacing this with our draggable container. And now that we have, we should be good to go. Except that it's angry at that. Why are you angry at me removing commented code? What? Typer namespace icons doesn't exist in on name line 1, or that's probably not even where the actual error is. So go away. Build. Tedrick says to Sir Blacksoul, seems lucrative to use a pie for a weapon. Pie. Not just any pie, a Raspberry Pi. Okay, did you actually build? Build succeeded, so there is no actual error. I don't know what you're on about. I lost on Jeopardy. Ooh, someone to lurk. Somebody to lurk. Somebody. You there. I want to lurk on that person and that person. And the first one is going to crash on me like it always does. I may as well try. Okay, back to chat. Back to chat. Linked fridge. I don't know what that is. I hope you're not offended that I'm not reading out that conversation. I'm just not interested in even playing around with that line, that train. I don't know enough about it for me to joke about it or not joke about it. I can't follow it, to be honest. So what we're doing instead is I'm going to move the close button a little closer, or the dismiss button a little closer to the right. Just by a little bit. I don't know why I made the screen, the window itself, smaller. You can stay out here. You're fine. Scooch you this away now. Okay. I really, really like how smooth this moves. Like, it feels like a window that I'm dragging around. That's really fun. I don't like the cursor. Haven't figured that out yet, but it shouldn't be too difficult if we put some effort into it. Padding right. Let's just see what happens if we put it at 0.2, which will move it to 0.3. Too close. About 0.4. I'm not angry at that. Which means that we could probably do 0.2 and increase the horizontal padding. Yeah, I like that. That looks really, really clean to me. I could be wrong. It could look messy. I don't know. It looks clean to me. I like it. Kitbash. I've heard of Kitbash. I've heard someone talking about Kitbash, but Sir Blacksoul is wondering if there are any Unity users here that use Kitbash. And Diedrich wants to know which laptop would be a good buy to use Visual Studio and what spec would be good. I don't know brands really. I can not really advocate for any brands actually in my current position, but that's fine. But what I would look for is something with that minimum 8 gigs of RAM. I know 8 gigs is pretty low, so 16 would be more ideal. Definitely solid state, but M2 would be the preferred type of solid state. And minimum 1 terabyte on whatever drive you want to put all of your apps on. Yeah, President Not Sure is saying I wouldn't even go less than 16 gigs of RAM. Processors, that's a tough one. I honestly don't know for regular application development whether going with AMD or Intel is more beneficial. Like, I would have been able to say simply something like a 2.9 to 3.2 gigahertz processor, 8 core, octa-core, whatever you want to call it. But like to say maybe i7 or later. Intel versus AMD doesn't matter that much, except, I mean, depending on the type of application that you're developing. So this, I only say that because my work product, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the actual architecture itself matters. And virtualization, says Sir Black, so that's another thing to consider. More RAM is better, although on Mac you can't always upgrade, so choosing wisely at the start is important, and I need lots of RAM to run Windows VMs. I saw someone that was running a Mac with an M1 and what's the Windows virtualization software on a Mac? Parallels. And it was running really well with Visual Studio. And I'm out of water. Sad times. Intel provides Haxum and is key for doing mobile dev on VS. Yeah, also that's another consideration. Are you going to be doing, are you going to use the WSA? Is it still the WSL that you use for doing Android development on Windows? Or was there actually something called the WSA? I'm kind of remembering something like that. Windows subsystem for Android. Like the thing where they were trying to push out the Amazon App Store. I mean, yeah, exactly. You don't have to use it, but you can, because like I currently use the ADK. ADM. I have not done Android development in a long time. I love that. It is the best. In case you can't see it, here it is embiggened. Oh, I wish I could pop this out into its own. Oh my gosh. I love it. Oh, Irish John. Thank you for the lurkage. Thank you for the good times. Oh, wouldn't Kotlin be the preferred choice for Android development? I have no idea. I've been so far removed from Android development. Not if you use .NET for mobile, says President, not sure. So yeah, like right now I have a Maui project, and this app can be run as an Android app. Set startup. The only issue is that I think that I need to figure out how to set up the correct tunnel so that my Android app can do API requests. I think I also need to start the virtual machine. I call it virtual machine. I don't even remember which one of these I was running it on. This doesn't even have a memory amount. Oh, it was this. Okay. So anyway, you can see the same app running in Android-ish. It just happened to be the last app that I left running in here, but it doesn't, I don't know how to get it to communicate with my API. But if it did, I'm using the exact same UI that I'm using in the rest of the app for Android via Maui. I have a Threadripper, and any simulator is slow AF. Wouldn't expect it having 64 cores. Holy cow. Mac and Apple Book thingies not available in SA. And if you do find these products, they are banged up or overpriced. Oh, South Africa. Gotcha. Yeah, and again, so that's a preference thing. Like, do you prefer using Mac? Because if so, then I can't really give any advice because I'm not a Mac user. I wouldn't know what to recommend as far as doing .NET development on a Mac. I do know that Visual Studio support for Mac is going away, but you can still use Visual Studio Code. We use C# for nearly everything. Me too. Java for when I need to do Android native stuff, Swift and Objective-C for when I need to do iOS stuff. I use Blazor for all of that. Every single one of those. But I only write native code to wrap SDKs and expose a simpler binding surface for .NET. I guess iOS versus Android depends on where you are in the world. It depends on what you're writing to. You can also pair to Mac and Visual Studio for Windows, which is my approach for iOS development. Yeah, you just need to make sure that you have an iOS device and an Apple Store login credentials or something. I don't know what all it is, but it does have some requirements if you're going to be developing on a Mac. Okay, so good conversation. No code being written for the past hour, maybe hour and a half. But we did get some good stuff done. That was nice. I kind of do want to know if we can at least set the focus to something in here that would make it possible for us to, like, I guess that's the thing that I want to logic through. Should I be using a window what's the word for this? What am I looking for? What mechanism should I be using to listen for keystrokes? It's really easy to listen for keystrokes on any of these buttons if they have the focus. But what if the focus is here, where this is not an input? This is a span that is formatted to look like an input, a read-only input at that. So the only time that I would want to be listening for 10 key in the calculator is when there is an element inside of this calculator component that has the focus. So should I create maybe like an invisible input that gets the focus? Is that even possible? That would get the focus so that when you start typing, like, here's one easy thing we can look at. For the calculator, styles, we say if card has, or no, focus within is what I meant to say. Focus within. Then let's just do a outline, because I don't want to use a border because border will add to the box sizing and then it'll change sizes on us. Outline, 1 pix, pink, solid. So if any of the elements inside has the focus, then we'll get this outline. So then when I click on the background or anywhere inside of this thing, I would want the focus to be moved inside, but I don't necessarily want it to be on one of the buttons. So I click out here, I click here. A lot of people are building finance apps. Is that true? Or are you just stating that as what you've observed? Because I haven't seen any other developers that I follow, at least, making financial management applications. But I can tell you the reason that I'm building this one. I have an Access application, so Microsoft Access. Thindle says I'm not making one. Captain Commerce is making plugins for an e-commerce. Actually, he's probably doing other things at the moment. I'm rarely able to actually be active on his chat. on his stream, but YouTube has a spam load of financial app tutorials. Really? I did not know that. But anyway, it wouldn't matter to me anyway, because I'm making this mostly for myself. I'm making this financial management tracker because I have this app in Access. It's connected to my SQL server and everything, but I pretty much have forms in the Access app that allow me to enter payments in this pretty much this exact way. I enter the date, select what establishment I am paying money to, and then tell it that here's the subtotal amount, here's the sales tax, here is anything else that I add, and then here's the account that I'm paying from. Oh, and the date that I am making the payment. And then it gets added to a list of transactions that I can mark as pending or not pending. So anyway, I have this functionality essentially, and it's been in Access since about 2014 or 13 even, maybe. And I've been wanting to make it into a web application for a really long time for my own personal use. It has nothing to do with trying to make an app that other people can benefit from, but because of my personality, I also wanted to make it into something that other people can benefit from. So we're mostly using it as a let's try to make a full stack cross multi-platform application using Blazor as the UI, and then all of the various targets: Android, iOS, Mac, Tizen, Windows, web. Yeah. Back just in time. I hope everything went well with whatever you were not back for, whatever you were actively inactive. But yeah, so that's my reason for doing a financial management tracker application. I'm not trying to replace any of the existing apps because I also use something like Mint to see all of my financial accounts. Awesome. That is so cool, Dukasoft. But yeah, I still like to be able to manually track my stuff. But this app turned out to be a really good app for the stream because it was Blazor everywhere. Soon we'll do Blazor AR, which would be awesome. And other stuff, DevOps even, is what I was trying to get at. Just another odd question. Why are login and registration forms so messed up? And ill-explained usually. Because identity is hard. Unless you've like spent your entire career doing authentication and authorization, it's still pretty. You rely on third-party libraries to do all of the management for you, since I'm reading the word manage, to do all of the identity management for you and lifecycle. Everything from authenticating a user via various credential forms like multi-factor authentication included, to authorization, making sure that the user has access to resources or approved access to resources, and stuff. So the answer is it's hard, is the reason why registration and login forms are messed up. Supposedly it's easy because all you have to do is create a new .NET project and choose individual accounts or Microsoft authentication MSAL stuff. But there's still so much extra. So much extra. But anyway, I am going to stop there because I do need to think about this. And the other thing that we're seeing is that the draggable containers drag area needs to be shifted down so that it's inside. And then it also needs to clip so that it is contained within the angled corners. Or I need to just simply move this thing up to the card container. I don't think so. I don't know. That kind of works. Yeah, okay. So I need to figure out how exactly we want to do the capturing the focus when we click anywhere on the calculator itself, while allowing us to select text and copy, as well as click on buttons and leave the focus on that button so that we can tab through the buttons if we wanted to. But the main goal is to be able to use number pad or the number keys on the keyboard and the plus sign, minus sign, divide, multiply, and enter in order to be able to manipulate this, to do the calculator stuff. So we'll do that on Wednesday, but that's the end of today's stream. I really appreciate you all being here. You're all amazing peoples. Thank you for the fun conversations and for hanging out. You are always welcome to join our Discord. There's an invite link right there in chat. Thank you, Dukebot, Softbot. And I will be posting a recording, the VOD, this VOD, to YouTube no sooner than 24 hours after I end the stream, thanks to being an affiliate. It needs to stay exclusive to Twitch. And yeah, we're going to raid out to, what his name is? Dragon Spirit Games. So he is a game developer. If you're not interested in seeing a game developer, you can hop off the train, but he is a good guy, really laid back, pretty fun to hang out with. So that's where we're heading. I'll be lurking on his stream. I'll be lurking on Simple's stream. I'll be lurking on Setolix's stream, or Setolix, depending on where you're from. There is a raid message that, I don't know, needs more bombs, because people like to use bombs when they raid or something. But it's better than what I had before, which was nothing. So anyway, yeah, but you have a thing you can use. That's it though. I got nothing else. I'm sure there's something else that I'm missing. Discord, YouTube, the project is up to date, so feel free to check it out on GitHub. Okay. Ciao for now. Oh, I stopped waving. I need to restart my wave timer. I have a wave timer? No. Ciao.